I'm Jeff Morgan. I am here with Tina Griffin. Tina, you have a very interesting story. Please tell me about it.
Yes. Well, I grew up a farm kid in Wisconsin.
Okay.
And at the age of 20, after I gave my life to the Lord, I headed out to Hollywood.
Okay.
And I did not know that I would be basically God's undercover FBI agent for about a 10-year period.
Oh, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. I got into film and TV, was on a lot of different shows. The first show I actually worked on was 90210, which was the very show that I watched when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So it's very wild. So 90210, Melrose Place, I did Fashion Runaway, Miss America pageant, Women in Film, just a lot of, even went to the Oscars. I learned a lot of the behind the scenes and in front of the camera life of how they make movies and TV shows and who ran Hollywood.
So my guess is that probably all the glamour that you see in the front is not exactly reflected in the back?
No, the glitz and glamour, guys, the gold sparkly deal is exactly not what it seems. And the crazy thing was these Hollywood, I want to say hypocrites, but we've got to pray for them because God died on the cross, Jesus died on the cross for them too. These celebrities would shelter their own kids from their own entertainment. Eminem rewrote the lyrics for his own daughter to listen to. I've been speaking around the globe for 20 years doing a Hollywood Exposed presentation.
Wow.
Sharing my personal life story of living in Hollywood and sharing with thousands of children over the years, teens, parents, how to safely navigate the pop culture chaos. You know, do we want to believe everything we see on TikTok and Snapchat? Is that really our identity? No, our identity is in Jesus, not
Jesus
pop
Christ,
culture.
Right. Yes. Yeah. But that sounds very, very interesting. So you were there for, you said, how many years?
10 years.
10 years. And why did you move out then?
I moved because I started speaking so much that I ended up becoming assigned with Premier Speakers Bureau in Nashville.
Okay.
And I was speaking so often that when people in Hollywood saying, hey, can you come shoot this commercial, this movie? I'm like, I can't. I'm doing a youth event or I'm on a cruise ship speaking to teens or whatever the case was. And I just wasn't in LA that much.
So the question that I have is, you're speaking out about Hollywood. Why are they still asking you to come and do commercials and stuff like that? Why were you not just like, we want nothing to do with it?
I am surprised. And I don't know, it's not as though I became a big celebrity status figure. I don't know if it's because God wanted to keep me safe. I had a lot of dangerous roles that if I would have said yes to, I know to this day I would not be where I'm at with the testimony I still have. If we just cut to the chase, I tell teens I waited to have sex until my wedding night. I was abstinent. Had I said yes to some of those roles, I know it would have led down the wrong road. It would have led to certain parties, and I who knows what would have happened to me? Who knows if I would have been alive? Because the pressure is so great out there. To
keep giving in and giving in and giving in.
Absolutely, because people just want to add one more thing to the resume. I met Brittany Murphy on the movie Little Black. That's okay. I met Brittany Murphy on Little Black Book.
Okay.
And we talked for 20-30 minutes when I shot that movie with her, and she had just got done doing the movie 8 Mile with Marshall Mathers. At that time I was already speaking around the country at school assemblies. I had 8 Mile in my presentation about the drugs, the sex, the influence that movie has on kids to think that that's glamorized.
Right.
I challenged her about that. I'm like, hey, how did you feel when you shot that movie? She's like, wait, are you that Tina chick that goes around talking about how media impacts the youth?
Yeah.
And I said, I am. She goes, I feel guilty doing those type of roles. I said, just be honest, like, how did you feel when you shot 8 Mile and did the sex scenes and the drug scenes? And she said, Tina, I'm a Christian and I feel like what I did was wrong, but I had to do it in order to get ahead in the industry.
Yeah. So how many Christians are there in Hollywood? And when you look at the Christians themselves, how many compromise to get ahead?
I don't know how many Christians are still there today because I left 10 years ago. I started speaking so much that I ended up moving to Nashville and that kind of thing. When I lived there, I met a lot of Christians. I really did. And I'd say from my experience with the people that I met personally, I'd say about 50% would stick to who they are and their morals, and 50% would have regrets of something they did, shouldn't have done, or didn't see a big deal. God's going to forgive me anyway. I'm just going to do the role and then just apologize later and ask for forgiveness.
So I heard at one time, going back in a history in America, that, for example, like if you had a bedroom scene, that there were often 2 beds, one for the husband, one for the wife. They were not together. They were always clothed. They would never go into a bedroom and close the door. These were the things that we were doing to keep some type of morality in our movies. And now, how prudish that would seem to most everybody. Most everybody thinks the moment they go in there, they start to imagine, if it's not shown on the film, what's actually taking place. So, I mean, you saw the degradation of the more moral culture in Hollywood the 10 years you were there.
Absolutely, and it blows my mind today how bad it is. We now have a team of 21 people on the Counterculture Mom team that pump out and curate content on a daily basis because pop culture is constantly changing.
Right.
And so we have a Counterculture Mom app that I want to tell your viewers,
please
absolutely download the Counterculture Mom app. Get the premium section on that app. It's $5 a month. It is so worth it with what you're going to get. That just goes back to the ministry to help me pay for the needs that I've got, the staff that I've got. But for $5, it's like getting a coffee, and it gives you 30 alerts a week at least, notifications on your phone of the TV shows, movies, video games that are coming out. And we don't just give, hey, here are the problems with today's pop culture. Half of the stories, yes, stuff you definitely want to run from. A lot of parents don't find out their kids are doing it till after they've already engaged in it or seen it, or now they have nightmares. The other half is positive entertainment that the mainstream media owned by George Soros will never advertise.
Right.
So we have an app that's current, amazing content, Counterculture Mom app, get it, download it, and we focus not just on the problems but the solutions. We give parenting tips on, okay, so your kid's involved with this negative, violent video game. These are the steps you can take to talk to your child about the video game and have them come up with the solution or the decision, I don't want to play this video game any longer. We have dirt where celebrities say, we shelter our kids from entertainment. They don't see it. We only want to give them positive entertainment. When kids see that in a school assembly, when I get done, they are angry, and I'm so happy. They're ripping down posters of the celebrities off their walls. They're reading different books. They destroy their video games. We have CD smashing parties on high school front lawns. I remember 10 years ago these shots coming to me. Because they want high standards.
So one thing that has always bothered me for a long time about Hollywood is when you look at the portrayal of the family. In particular, when you look at the portrayal of a father. Usually he is the dumbest person in the room. He is the goofiest person. He's the one who knows nothing. You might have an 8-year-old girl or boy, and they know more than dad. And that really, to me, I said, wait a minute, they are shaping a worldview.
That you're so right on. They are shaping a worldview. Back in 1963, 45 communist goals were written to take over America, right? You're familiar.
I'm familiar, but go ahead.
Well, about a dozen of them, 14 of them, are all focused on pop culture, and one of them is to destroy the family structure and make the dad look like a goofus or doofus, or not even that he's needed in the family at all. And we see that happening in our families today. Where they're glamorizing this lifestyle, and China's laughing all the way to the bank. They own Hollywood. I mean, they own the AMC theaters. So we have communist China owning all the ports in our country, owning our education system. We can understand what their agenda is to destroy America from within. I don't know if you know who Curtis Bowers is.
I've heard of him.
Okay, he made Agenda 1 and Agenda 2 movies. They're fantastic, and he describes in detail, for 20 years being in Hollywood, I believe, or even more than that, he describes in detail how literally communist China has infiltrated the entertainment industry. And once you learn about that, it makes complete sense why our kids are ingesting the content they're ingesting, and why we have brick throwers instead of peacemakers. So,
well, it was Lenin, and I've said this many times. Lenin said, destroy the family, destroy society. And that's what he did with Bolshevik Russia. The interesting thing was, because of the divorce culture, and that's also within the 43 points that you mentioned, and that was read in the congressional testimony, make divorce easy. Why is that? Because when you start to do that, you destroy the essential unit, the very fabric of society. And by doing that, you make a society more susceptible to influences like communism, like socialism. You start to change morality. When you say that marriage is not important, what you're saying is that parenthood is not important, family is not important, and you're teaching people how to quit. This is the most, to me, the whole divorce culture and what has been shoved down our throat is possibly more evil and pernicious than almost anything else. Because if you have a two-parent household, and if you have both parents working together, and I'm not saying every parent is perfect or anything like that, but the two-parent household, children living with their natural mother and father, provides protection for the children. It provides stability for the family. You attack that. You attack the very core of who we are.
Absolutely, and it's generational curse after generational curse. A lot of these people don't know how to raise kids today because they weren't raised in a functional home. And a lot of our generation, I'm in my 40s, I think that's where the cutoff line was, where common sense went out the window.
Right.
And it's not as though parents don't want to do the best for their kids. I have a lot of parents, especially now after COVID.
Right.
I had to bring on 21 people because of the influx of incoming emails, phone calls, and parents freaking out.
Right.
Because they are now realizing there's a huge issue in our culture. How do we save our kids? What can I do to make a difference? And they need guidance.
Right.
And I have to say, if you're a pastor watching this, or if you're going to a church and your pastor is not addressing these issues, David Barton, Wall Builders Ministry out of Texas.
I know him. Yeah, he's in Alito, Texas. I'm in Dallas, so I'm not too far away.
That's amazing.
50 miles away. I've been there.
That guy's amazing.
Yes.
I heard him speak a couple times. We met a couple times, and he said there's like a top 13 topics that churches are not addressing, and because of that, we don't see people under the age of 20 in churches today.
Right, and he's so right. I don't know that I've heard him talk on that topic, but it's been something that has bothered me because we try to almost separate church from society.
You can't.
And we cannot do that.
You can't. And they're the last line of defense before we lose this amazing country that I'm willing to take a bullet over.
And see, the problem is this as well, is that the church, they're guarding the goal line at the 1 yard line. They should also be progressing and saying, wait a minute, we want the other team to be going in for the safe. We want to put them in the safety position. And when you have the offense coming at you, you are eventually going to yield that 1 yard.
I absolutely, you're going to be stuck and dead. And I just want to tell people listening, when you are a nonprofit 501c3 status, like I've been saying for 20 years from stages around this globe, if you allow yourself to be a nonprofit 501c3 and the government's telling you what you can and can't say from the pulpit, we got a problem because they own you. And I would rather be convicted leaving a church service than to leave feeling empty inside because I've heard the same message watered down and it's not talking about today's issues. I would rather know what's going on. There's other pastors too that said, Tina, I homeschool my kids, but I could never tell our congregation I homeschool my kids because I don't want people to feel offended. Are you kidding me? Show us the sex education system going on in our schools, and I'll be like, I'm pulling them out now. Thank you for telling me.
Yeah, and it's very interesting. We just talked about the school board a couple of times today, actually, and I know I got to testify last year about this because in Austin we have a very radical, liberal, evil, progressive, perverse sexual education curriculum that they're trying to push forward. I mean, how crazy is this? When I was growing up, it never entered my mind that I might be a girl, or the girls might be a boy, or that I might be interested in another boy. I understand some of those things happen, but today, a couple of years ago, I testified before a school board down in Waxahachie, and all of these people were in there. Everybody's that I am trans, I'm LGBT, and I'm like, you're in high school.
I know.
You're in high
school and science,
and they're all wearing purple hair, and they don't have any skills because the whole curriculum is about making you aware of who you are. And I got on from the school board and I said, in my generation, it would be different. We would have said, quit raping our children's minds. And that is what's going on.
I had that slogan on a t-shirt that I sold for a decade.
Really?
Porn rapes children's minds. It absolutely does. And this gender dysphoria that's going on, it blows. Same thing. I was a tomboy, grew up on the farm. I was, riding horses and working in the fields and, baling hay and playing sports. I didn't consider myself a boy at all, but what's going on now is the problem with puberty blockers. They're giving it to kids that are 11, 12, 13 years old. These kids didn't even go through puberty yet.
I know. And somehow, again, the kid knows better than the father, because we've got a case back in Dallas. You probably have heard of the Jeff Younger situation.
I believe it, yes.
So yes. I'm close friends with Jeff. I went down to his trial. I saw the whole thing. Trust me, it is horrific what they're trying to do. I've gone down to testify against the stuff, but the idea is that somehow an 8 or a 9-year-old or a mother of an 8 or a 9-year-old gets to tell the child that he is a girl when he knows he's a he. And this type of confusion. But I want to go back to family structure just for a moment. I think you've alluded to it a bit. With that talk today, we talk about the importance of fathers once again. And do you find that from the people that you're talking with, the family structure issue, to me, is one of the most important issues that we are addressing. We're addressing sex education, we're addressing this, we're talking about that, but the breakdown of the nuclear family, when you have divorce takes place, you have children that are more susceptible to dropping out of school, to having alcohol abuse, drug abuse, to getting pregnant outside of wedlock, to becoming a rapist, to becoming trafficked, human sexuality. You can suicide, everything. There's no sociological pathology or malady that is not increased by a factor.
Absolutely.
Due to the issue of divorce, but we don't talk about the necessity of marriage. And to go back to the Hollywood framework, divorce, they don't portray it as creating problems. They portray divorce as somehow solving problems.
That's exactly it.
And everybody lives happily ever after.
And
more or less.
Absolutely. It's like a quick fix. And the sad thing with that, too, is it's not just in the movies, it's in real life. You have celebrities getting married 14 times in a decade to different people.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that of the roles they play.
Right.
It's very easy to fall in love with somebody else when you're portraying sex scenes in movies.
Right.
2 seconds later, I mean, how many times I've called ahead of time, I'm like, if these two actors get together in this movie, I know what that movie's going to entail. We're going to see a divorce happen and they're going to get married. And sure enough, 5 months later, oh my gosh, you called this. It's not hard.
Right.
And the sad thing is you have all these kids going through the chaos of that breakdown family structure when they need those parents the most. And
Right.
it's too. My husband and I have been married for almost 13 years, and going through our story, it's like many times he wanted to quit. I mean, I got married in my late 20s, so did he. We were set in our ways. But when we got through the hardest times in our life, which a lot of parents just want to give up, saying, oh, that guy looks kind of better, that chick looks, great, is that we are giving up on the most amazing, solidifying marriage experience because we give up right before the finish line.
Right.
When you go through those hard cases, it's like, now I love my husband more now than I did in the first 7 years, and I thought I was going to make it the first 7 years.
Right.
People are like, oh, it's a honeymoon phase in the first couple of years, and it's going to be great.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like, heck no, man, I want to kill him the first couple. And he would say the same thing about me.
Yeah.
But working out together, knowing that it's until death do us part.
Yeah.
Saying the words and meaning those words, that's what kids want to see. That's what we have to model, and that's what's going to get this country back on track. And it takes all of us working together. We all have to get off the bench right now and get in the game. We do. God gave us all talents and giftings to do what He's called us to do. And you might be thinking, oh, well, no one's going to miss my talent if I don't give it. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
If I wouldn't have been speaking the last 20 years because I was afraid to get on stage, and I'm still afraid to get on stage, there would be hundreds of thousands of children that never heard the message that now are not creating positive video games, not public speakers. I have one kid in, there's how many stories I could tell you over the years, I'm sure you could as well. I spoke in an assembly like 10, 15 years ago in Michigan. A kid was mad that I came in, said that I'm going to wait to have sex until I'm married, and explained that because he wanted to go out and party and do that. Well, he sent me an angry email, and then I'm like, it's okay, take what you want of my message, but I'm telling you, God will honor your marriage if you just wait for your future spouse. I'm speaking on behalf of your future wife. Yeah. 10 years later, he sends me an email. I've been thinking about what you said in the school assembly. I've been thinking about the email you sent me back. I'm getting married in a couple of weeks, and I waited to have sex until my wedding night with my wife. Wow. So kids want to have a high standard to live by. Yeah. They get garbage fed to them every single day by pop culture, telling them to have sex, do drugs, cutting, drinking and driving. Yeah. And really what they're wanting is a parent to say, I love you, I care for you. They want personal communication. So parents, they might be on their phone 24/7, but it might be because you're not paying attention like you should with your kids, spending time together. So start that, and I guarantee they're going to come to you when they have a problem versus going to Snapchat and everywhere else. Right. And I'm telling you, that app, the Counterculture Mom app, if they download that and get the premium section on there, we walk them through the steps of how to get from chaos in their home, doing a pop culture purge, and then starting to have the relationship they've always wanted to have with their kids. Wow. It's in it. It's loaded. So Tina, tell everybody again where they can find this. Tell them a little bit more of the details, because this is something that I think that we actually need to be talking about. And there's a lot more I could talk about, but I want you to tell everybody where to find the app. Yes. Well, you download the app from Google Play or iTunes Store. It's called Counterculture Mom. Some of the content is free, but we have a paid subscription of the $5 a month in the premium section, because that goes to cover our team's expenses. Right. And $5 a month, like you said, it's the payment for a cup of coffee. And if you're talking about, even if you have this for 10 years, it's what, $560, $600 for 10 years or something like that. All it takes
there's just one thing that can happen. You say, man, I would have spent 10 times that amount to save my child.
You're thinking 10 years in advance. That's awesome. I'm thinking for 1 year, $50. That is less, because we have a deal if you get the whole year subscription.
Right.
And literally a third of that goes to Apple. It's crazy. They just take your cash. But we want to have that app available. But that $50 is cheaper for a year's worth of content. I'm telling you, parents, if you have a problem, email me. I will send you your cash back. We've never had a problem. Parents are like, oh my gosh, where's this been for 10 years?
Yeah.
Because we have a cool system to gather the information ahead of time, where we put the power back in the parents' hands. On their app, they'll get a notification of this movie's coming out, this TV show, this video game just came out. Watch out for this live suicide on TikTok. Make sure your kids aren't on it today.
Yeah.
Parents want the power. They just don't have the time to do the research. I have 80 tabs open on my computer.
Yeah.
And our team is working around the clock. We have people that go to bed at 2 and then get up at 2 a.m. to make sure we're not missing anything.
Yeah.
But that $50 for the year to get our services literally is less than taking your kids to see a movie in the theater.
Absolutely.
You guys will
a movie that
absolutely
may
love.
actually impact and ruin them for life.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
They will love it, and there's tons of positive freebies in there. We have signups for free month services for different places. We have affiliate with at least 20 companies that give you screenings for free. I mean, it's just a loaded app, and there's a parent chat feature in there too.
Yeah.
So parents can talk to each other.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, my kid's addicted to that video game. How did you get that kid off? Well, here's the steps we took, and here's what video games that he really loves. It's really kind of similar, but there's no blood, gore, violence, and brains flying out of your head.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. So we have the parents talking to each other.
Yeah.
In this buzz feature of the app. So they'll love it. I wish I would have had it, and we finally got it, and now I'm like, what? It keeps me in tune and then we have a radio program coming out very soon with Salem Radio.
Really? That's great.
A call-in show, and I'm very stoked. It's going to be a lot of work, a lot of commitment, but I told the Lord, I am going to serve you till the day you come back or the day that I die. I'm not dying of old age in our country. The tribulation period has been set. We are in the last days. So, and it's never too late. If you got a parent out there watching thinking my 16-year-old is chaotic and doing all these, it's never too late.
Right.
God redeems at any age. And if you're 70 thinking, what can I offer? You have so much to offer. Please give your wisdom to the younger generation. Please, because we want to hear God say, well done, good and faithful servant.
Right. Well, thank you so much. And once again, where you go to the Google Store and download.
Yep, Google Play or the iTunes Store, download the Counterculture Mom app and sign up for the premium section. You'll see it up in the menu, premium, grab it. You will absolutely love it. And then to get a free parent media guide, we have it loaded with tons of positive entertainment from comedians, clean comedians. We have Netflix series that are actually clean, TV shows, movies, all of that. You can text the word guide, GUIDE, to the number 55444. That's guide to 55444, and you'll get our free parent media guide loaded with great content, and we put on our bi-weekly newsletter email list.
Wow.
So you stay up to date with what's going on.
Tina, thank you for all of that you do.
Yes.
Thank you for coming up to me and talking to me about what you're doing.
No worries. Thank you for saying
tremendous.
let's do it. So
yeah, let's go.
Let's save the country for our kids, and let's get our kids on track so they're the counterculture warriors we need to get our country to be God honoring once again and be back to where our founding fathers had it 200 years ago. We can get back there again.
Wonderful. And thank you so much once again, and thank you for listening.
Go get them.